Okay, what makes it so hard to adapt to a new situation is that you've already adapted to a situation idealistically. In other words, you've come into a situation you've not been in before and you find yourself uncomfortable and you learn how to be a certain way in that situation. But in learning how to be a certain way in a situation, you're simply learning how to fit in. You're not necessarily being yourself. You're conforming to a new situation. You're behaving in a certain way that fits with that situation. And it's very hard to do that because it's not always natural for you to do that. So you work very hard. You try very hard to fit in with something, to fit in with an environment, to fit in with a culture, to fit in with a new country. And then it changes. Fit in with a new job environment, then you lose your job. And what happens when you lose it is you feel you've tried so hard to be a certain way, and now you are being asked to change, and you've become so attached to being a certain way, so identified with being a certain way. You put so much into being that way that you don't want to let it go. But what it's showing you is that the way you've been was just you modifying to a certain situation, wasn't necessarily you being yourself. So why is it so hard to adapt to a new situation? It's because a new situation, in other words, when something around you changes, it leaves you exposed. It leaves what's exposed inside of you, that you are not really yourself. You've just learnt to be to fit in with something else. And in doing that, you've overlooked yourself. So when something changes around you, what's really hard to change into that or to fit in with that is because you have an idea of yourself on a superficial level that you struggle to hold on to. But if you go a bit deeper than this, into the feelings of you and your body, you'll find there is a physical response to your environment that is a natural adaptation, a natural change. This doesn't mean you're conforming, doesn't mean you're bowing down. It just means that you are able to naturally change in your response to the environment around you. But this natural change, this natural response is always in a flux, always in a change. And that is within your body, within how it feels within your body. Get back to the feelings in your body and you'll notice in there, you'll find you'll be able to change, you'll be able to adapt much more easily. And any disturbance you have with adapting, feel that as well. And as you feel that, it will dissolve, leaving you free to respond to the new environment as a new person. There's a couple of things here. You feel uncomfortable when you need to change because, similar to what I've just said, is that you become attached to a certain way of being. You become identified with a certain way of being. And the mistake is that is not you. That is not your identity. It is an artificial identity. It's a learned idea of yourself, a thought-based idea of yourself that you've got yourself acting according to. But it's only an act to fit in with your generation or to fit in with your culture or to fit in with your particular family, to fit in with your society. It's not you. It's just an act that you've taken on to fit in. So why you feel so uncomfortable when it's time to change? There's a couple of reasons. One, because often we are under the influence of other people. They're trying to manipulate us. They're trying to enforce us to change into a certain way of being that suits them. And we may feel a resistance to that. Having lived in the world for a long time, you'll experience this having happened many, many times, that people are ultimately trying to get you to be the way they want you to be. So you feel some natural resistance to that because it's not necessarily the correct thing to do. Meaning that if they're just trying to have their way with you, then you conforming to that is giving up on yourself, is overriding yourself, is letting yourself down. So you will have some sort of resistance. But the other flip side of this is that you can respond. You can respond superficially. You can respond to the world around you, but you don't have to lose your sense of yourself in doing that. How do you not lose your sense of yourself in doing that? Is first you have to find that sense of yourself deeper than your thought process, deeper than the ideas you have about yourself, deeper in the sense of the body. The bodily sense of yourself is a constant. It's always there, and it's real, and it is uniquely you, Only you know that sense, only you know that feeling. But when you operate through an idea of yourself or a social idea, you are no longer uniquely yourself. So when you feel yourself resisting having to change, the other reason is because sometimes it's a lot of pain involved. When you have to change, you have to go through recognition of certain behaviours in yourself and feel the dependency that has built up inside of you to be a certain way. So when you have to change, sometimes it's almost like a part of you has to die, a part of you has become obsolete. And so you resist that. But you're resisting again the discomfort. And that change is not a bad thing. This is how we move on in life. This is how we heal through the different experiences of life and move on into a new life every day, fresh and free from whatever effects life has had on us before. How do we do that? Is to feel the effect it's had on us and to feel that effect knowing that if I'm feeling that disturbance, then I am now currently going through whatever change I need to be going through within myself in order to live my life to the full into the future. Firstly, it's not a practice. When you're talking about practice, you're talking about Hinduism or Buddhism or some religion or some concept. These are all very superficial practices. You can't practice life. You either live life or you pretend to live life. Yeah? This is not a practice. This is getting back to the reality of you. If you feel you're looking for a purpose in life, you simply overlook the fact of your own existence. Most people have the idea, what is the purpose of life? You are alive. You exist. That's what all there is to it. That you exist is your purpose. Yeah, to have a greater purpose than that is an ideology. That is a human egoistic idea that we're here for some special purpose. Yeah. Why do we have to have some special purpose as an individual? Because we feel inadequate just being ourselves. Why do we feel inadequate just being ourselves? Because we're not actually being ourselves. We're living up to some ideology of ourselves. We're being the person we're being meant to be. We've been trained to be. Go deeper than that into the sense of yourself. When you feel you lack inspiration, when you feel you lack purpose for life, you've simply lost touch with the life of you and got caught up in the dead ideas that you're trying to live up to. That sounds pretty full on, but I'll take this a little bit further. So what do you do about this? When you feel you lack inspiration, ironically, when I feel a lack of inspiration, that's exactly what I need to be feeling. If I feel uninspired, if I feel unfulfilled, if I feel a lack of motivation for life, by feeling that lack of motivation, wherever you feel the sense of that in your body, and just feeling that lack of motivation will dissolve. That is how we change. By feeling how we don't want to be. Changes how we don't want to be. Relieves us of that feeling of lack of motivation. The other thing that happens is by getting in contact with the feelings in you, the fact of you that you don't want to be, you're coming back into contact with the life of you. And the process is it changes the disturbances that are there, but also leaves you fully in contact with the life of you. The reason you're not in contact with yourself, the reason you are, in a sense, disassociated from yourself is because you choose to avoid things about yourself that you don't like the feeling of, and yet that is how you get back in touch with yourself, through the things that you find most disturbing. And in getting in touch with the things that you find most disturbing, or mildly disturbing, by feeling the sensation of that in your body, the lack of motivation that you feel when you want to do something, don't force yourself to do it. Just feel that lack of motivation. Feel the lack of motivation and feel it for as long as it's there, and it will pass. It will dissipate. And when that's gone, all you'll have is a thriving motivation for life. There's a big misunderstanding in the human species, and that is, and it's being propagated by religion, it's been propagated by psychology and psychiatry, it's been propagated by societies, that if you're feeling unhappy, You need to introduce happiness. You need to introduce bliss. You need to introduce techniques to make yourself feel better. And this is completely wrong. The reason you feel unhappy or feel distressed is because of the effects life has had on you. By feeling that unhappiness and that distress, you are dissolving those effects, and those effects have been added to what you already are. By feeling those, really feeling them in your body, not thinking about them, feeling them, the energy of those dissipate, absorb into the body and dissipate from you. When that unhappiness, that depression, that sadness, that grief, that hurt, that pain, that whatever you suffer heals, what is left is a completely fulfilled creature. You, without the effects that have harmed you, are perfectly fine. You do not need to add bliss. You do not need to add happiness. You do not need to add fulfillment. That is already there in the creature that you are. It's just been covered up by the pain, by the distress, by the thoughts about yourself that you've been taught to think. You need to get back in touch with the fulfillment of you is simply to resolve, to dissolve all of the false ideas you have about yourself and the effects that life and living through those false ideas has had on you. And how you do this is to feel the effect of those within your own system until they dissolve. And that will leave you with such a sense of yourself, such a fulfillment, that motivation for life will not be a problem. It's completely natural. It is part of being what you are. You just need to get deeper into contact with that through dissolving whatever lack of motivation is on top of that and hiding it. Yes, this is a very, very big reason why people avoid change. This is a big reason why people stay in situations that are unhealthy. This is another reason why people are dishonest and lie to themselves. People are more interested in what they're going to get out of something than they are in the truth of life. I'd rather be a phony and a liar and a con man to have what I think I'm going to get out of that than to risk not having that and be truthful and honest. Yeah? I'm not criticising the liar and the cheat and the con man. I'm just saying this is what we do. We put more importance on the actions that are promising to get results. We become so superficial in this way. We become so goal-orientated. And in that goal orientation, we've overlooked the truth, the reality of ourselves, what really matters, being honest with ourselves. We're so frightened of what we might lose. We're in a shit relationship. We're frightened of being alone. We're frightened of losing the lousy relationship we have. So frightened of what we might lose that we don't give ourselves a chance to have anything new. We're so frightened of what the truth may reveal that we avoid the truth. We're so frightened of speaking the truth in case someone gets upset with us that we conform and speak the lie. We behave the way we're supposed to behave even though it's completely against how we would naturally behave if we lived in a free society. So consequently, the effect this has on us is that we're so frightened of what being truthful may bring about. It will bring about changes in our life. And we're frightened of those changes because we're deep down there is a sense that the truth will reveal something that will bring about a change. And a change will be chaotic. A change will be disruptive. A change will shift your life in ways that you don't know. You don't know where it's going to take you. When you lie and you manipulate, you know where that's going to take you. Yeah? When you use a meditation technique to achieve a certain state, you know where that's going to take you. It's going to take you into the state caused by that technique. But when you drop all that and you just come back to being yourself and be really true to yourself. What is it like to be me? I'm not going to manipulate me. I'm not going to manipulate what it feels like to be me. I'm not going to manipulate what I'm saying. I'm not going to manipulate what I'm doing just to fit in. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to express myself as myself, not to hurt anybody, but just to be true to myself. And this is disruptive. This brings about change. But the change it will bring about is a rediscovery of what it is to really be you. At first, it's very disturbing because many things will fall away. People will fall away. But these people are not really in relationship with you or caring about you in the first place. They're in relationship with the idea of yourself that you present, the idea they want you to be, and the idea you have become in order for them to be attracted to you in the first place. But when you can be yourself, you'll find that'll be uncomfortable for a lot of people. It'll be uncomfortable for yourself at first too. But in the long run, nothing will be uncomfortable for you anymore. When you have your sense of self, when you're true to yourself, you'll find you're no longer dependent on other people to make you feel satisfied, fulfilled, or worthwhile. This doesn't mean you're cold and uncaring. It's opposite happens, actually. It's just that you're not needy. You're not dependent on how other people think about you or how other people talk about you. It doesn't mean anything because they don't know you anyway. But this is a big step. This is a really big step. And we're frightened of these changes. We're frightened of being truthful. If we make that change, if we take that step, we don't know where it's going to go. But one little hint here is if you know where you're going, if it feels familiar, you're not changing, you're modifying. If it feels completely unfamiliar and you don't know where you're going, you're changing. You're going from what you knew into something you've never been before. And that's what change is like. You never know what's going to happen next. You never know what you're going to discover within yourself. It's just going to happen because change happens of its own volition. It is a natural function. It is not something we enforce through ideologies. It is not something we enforce through what we think. That's modification. And that's why meditation techniques don't work. That's why ideologies don't work. Nothing changes that way. All we do is modify. We turn the problem into a different problem. If you want to change, move in the direction that is completely unfamiliar. Get in touch with yourself in a way that you find most uncomfortable. And you'll find things will start to change. But they'll change simply because you're being yourself, not because you were trying to change that. If you try and change that, it's not going to change. But if you just be yourself, in the sense of yourself, this will allow change to happen. Whatever change that needs to happen, the main change that needs to happen in you and every other human being is for you to shrug off the effects and the influences that society has had on you to turn you into a person that is not true to you. That is the main change that needs to happen. If you are to feel completely solid, fulfilled, and whole in yourself. And that will be unfamiliar. Not just to begin with, but every single day of your life after that. I never know who I'm going to be tomorrow. Thanks for listening. And I was just going to say, any other questions you come up with, any questions you post, we'll still get those questions, and I'll include them in the talk next time. But thanks for listening, and hopefully you'll tune in again. I hope that was helpful. Bye for now.